I've been secretly in love with Elizabeth for 10 years, yet she has never shown any interest in me. Just yesterday, she fell head over heels for the new transfer student in our class. She coquettishly begged me, "Dominic, will you help me win him over?" I agreed with a bitter smile. She knew full well that since childhood, I could never refuse any of her requests. One when I went to deliver the things brought from my hometown to Elizabeth, the first caught her kissing Vincent, the transfer student. I stood blankly at the door, my mind buzzing. The goddess I had secretly loved for 10 years, who had always been cold and indifferent to me, could actually be so passionate and uninhibited with another man. Stay the night. Elizabeth stroked his hair, gently, her voice both alluring and husky in the quiet room. Vincent kissed her amusement, and his voice haven tea had enough from last night. Thud, the things in my hands fell to the ground. Vincent spotted me and exclaimed, "Dominic." Elizabeth immediately looked over as well. The moment our eyes met, she visibly froze for a second, but what showed more was her indifference and composure. "What are you doing here?" I stared dumbly at the glaring red mark on her collarbone. It took me a long while to come up with a stiff excuse. I came to see Bruce. Bruce was a stray dog Elizabeth and I found on campus when we were in middle school. Later, I followed her to the same university, and Bruce was brought along too. Elizabeth fell silent for a moment, her expression indifferent coming, she said. Only after entering did I understand what Elizabeth's earlier silence had meant. The summer night wind rolled in with waves of heat, the sticky air so stifling I could barely breathe. I crouched on the cluttered balcony, staring blankly at Bruce, listless in his cage. "Bruce," I called out. Bruce's drooping ears suddenly twitched and perked up. The tip of my nose tingled uncontrollably as I rushed to the living room to confront Elizabeth. "Elizabeth, you know perfectly well that Bruce was abused before he's terrified of being locked in." "Dominic," Elizabeth cut me off, her tone laced with warning and displeasure. "Vincent is allergic to dog fur." The rest of my words lodged in my throat. Vincent is allergic to dog hair. So that was the reason. Yet from the moment I introduced them to them, becoming a couple, it took only 1 week. And I've been in love with Elizabeth for 10 years. For 10 years, I carefully carried my love for her in my heart, enduring in silence, content to be her gentle and considerate friend. She once said with a smile, "Only around you can I truly relax." Dominic, will be friends for life, right? At that time, I couldn't answer. I could only force a bitter smile and change the subject. I've thought about giving up, but every time I distanced myself, Elizabeth would take the initiative to show kindness, pulling me back in. 2 months ago, during a club outing, we encountered a torrential downpour and mudslide. I lost contact with the others and was buried under the rubble for several hours. The moment the police found me, Elizabeth was right behind them. She rushed forward and hugged me immediately as if I were some long-lost treasure. Her scorching breath fell on my neck as she urgently called my name, "Dominic, Dominic." Her body trembled slightly. "I almost lost you." The word loss is truly ambiguous. At that moment, I felt both dazed and pleasantly surprised. I thought perhaps Elizabeth cared for me too. For a while after that, I was busy preparing to confess my feelings. The day before the official confession, at the class gathering, I posted a photo with our new classmate Vincent on my social media feed. I hardly ever post anything, but this time I lost a dare and Vincent took my phone to upload it. He is good-looking and academically brilliant, causing a sensation since transferring here. Countless girls in school are chasing after him. The WeChat Moments post quickly garnered a flood of likes and comments, all asking for contact information. But what I didn't expect was that Elizabeth was among them. The next day, Elizabeth took the initiative to call me Dominic, help me win him over, okay? Before, whenever Elizabeth called me, it was always the distant and indifferent Dominic. That was the first time she'd ever called me Dominic with such intimacy. What followed was only natural through me. They added each other on WeChat and grew increasingly closer. As for me, Elizabeth became even more distant than before. Snapping out of my thoughts, Vincent approached with an apologetic explanation. "You saw how bad my allergy was last time. I nearly ended up in the hospital. I really didn't mean to lock Bruce away." "Yeah, I understand. I'll take Bruce away." Vincent breathed a sigh of relief. "Forgot to mention, Dominic, Elizabeth and I are together now." "Oh, that's great." I replied softly, pretending to casually pack Bruce's things, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Vincent said with a chuckle, "Stay for dinner, Dominic, consider it. Thanks for playing matchmaker." My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively opened my mouth to refuse. But Vincent didn't give me a chance to decline. "Elizabeth, what do you say?" Elizabeth looked at me and said lightly, "Stay for dinner." Vincent loved eating crab, and Elizabeth, thinking the ones outside weren't fresh enough, especially went to the seafood market in the evening to pick out fresh crabs. But she forgot I'd been having allergies these past few days and had to avoid seafood. So during this meal, meant to express gratitude, the guests spent most of the time picking a plain rice. The freshly steamed crabs were brought to the table, still piping hot. Elizabeth was patiently peeling the crab for Vincent. She lowered her head slightly, her fair and delicate fingers deftly removing the crab shell with a tool, every movement precise and focused. It suddenly reminded me of last New Year's Eve when Elizabeth's divorced parents, each with new families of their own, kept passing the responsibility of hosting her for the holiday. My heart ached for her, so I brought her home and cooked her a lavish meal, accidentally cutting my finger in the process. Elizabeth saw my bleeding finger and quickly helped bandage it. She even asked me what New Year's gift I wanted. Looking into her gentle eyes, I joked, "I love eating crab. How about you peel some for me?" Elizabeth refused without hesitation. But now I saw it clearly. Elizabeth placed the peeled crab meat on a Vincent's plate, even with a hint of fawning. A pang of pain struck somewhere in my chest, and my chopstick holding hand trembled slightly. The meal dragged on unbearably long. I kept my head down in silence until a knock came at the door. Elizabeth went to open the door. Josephine. I instinctively looked up. A petite figure suddenly rushed toward me. "Dominic, you're here too." I was startled by this unexpected enthusiasm and flusteredly escaped from her embrace. "Who are you?" The girl before me had an exceptionally beautiful face. If Elizabeth was an orchid in a secluded valley, then she was a peony in full bloom. "Don't you remember me?" She looked like she was about to cry. I searched my memory desperately. The little girl who always followed Elizabeth and me when we were children gradually overlapped with the beautiful girl before my eyes. Josephine was Elizabeth's distant relative who stayed at Elizabeth's house during her childhood. Though actually younger than Elizabeth, due to family hierarchy, Elizabeth had to address her as Aunt Josephine. The three of us practically grew up together, though Josephine suddenly went abroad during our first year of high school. I remember she used a stutter when speaking, so she was often bullied. Seems like she has overcome that now. As if sensing my confusion, Josephine blinked at me. "I went abroad to get treatment, and now I'm all better." I couldn't help but share her joy. That is truly wonderful. Yet Josephine kept staring at me. I felt a bit embarrassed under her gaze. "What's wrong?" Josephine's face turned red as she looked around, avoiding my eyes. "It's been so long since we last met. I've missed you, all of you." My face grew slightly warm too. Just as I was about to say something, Josephine suddenly teased, "Dominic, after all these years, have you gotten a girlfriend?" And no, not really. Josephine stared straight at me, her eyes lighting up before she suddenly stammered in a small voice, "He said, that's good then." I froze for a moment, unable to understand what this little girl was talking about. When I turned back, I noticed Elizabeth's expression had visibly darkened. Was she unwelcoming of Josephine's arrival? I distinctly remember that she and Josephine used to be very close. Seeing the barely concealed anger in Elizabeth's eyes, I was somewhat surprised. Elizabeth was introverted by nature, and it was rare for her to show her emotions so openly. The last time I saw her this furious was back in our second year of high school. A new female classmate had just transferred to our class, vivacious, outgoing, and academically brilliant, especially in English. The teacher assigned me to share a desk with that new girl. Back then, my English scores ranked at the bottom of the class, yet I felt too embarrassed to ask Elizabeth for tutoring help. For some reason, this new classmate showed me extraordinary kindness, not only sharing her vocabulary memorization techniques, but also patiently explaining my mistakes and helping me fill knowledge gaps every single day. My family and Elizabeth's were neighbors, and I used to wait for Elizabeth to walk home together. During that period, because of extra classes, I stayed in the classroom very late every day with that female classmate. That day, I was so exhausted that I rested my head on the desk with my eyes closed when suddenly I sensed someone approaching. I jerked my eyes open to discover that female classmate seemed to be trying to steal a kiss. I was startled and had no time to react when Elizabeth's voice suddenly came from behind me. "Is this how you two study together?" Her questioning tone carried a hint of anger, and if one listened closely, it might even be mistaken for jealousy. I hurried after her to explain, but my words failed me after stammering for a long while. All I managed to say was, "If you're unhappy, I won't let her tutor me anymore." The emotions in her eyes were too subtle, almost haunting, and before I knew it, I asked another question. "You don't like it when I get close to other girls, do you?" Elizabeth froze for a moment, then turned her head away, uncomfortably murmuring faintly, "Actually, my English is pretty good too." It suddenly dawned on me that what she meant was she could tutor me as well. My heart immediately started pounding, yet at the same time, I felt inexplicably melancholic. Having grown up together since childhood, I knew her all too well. She always seems to keep me on the hook like this just when I've gathered enough disappointment and resolved to let go. She gives me a glimmer of hope again, telling me not to give up. It was like this before, and now that she has a boyfriend, it's still the same. Then what exactly does she take me for? Just an on-call backup or a childhood friend who has easily forgotten? I lowered my gaze, withdrawing my line of sight, letting it rest on Josephine across from me. Josephine suddenly bounced in front of me, half jokingly asking, "So Dominic, can I chase after you?" "Sure," I said, looking at her. All my previous gloom suddenly swept away. Feeling playful, I teased the little girl, "You can give it a try." After saying this, I even affectionately picked up a crab for her. What expression Elizabeth has now, what she is, thinking none of that matters to me anymore. At this moment, I feel quite satisfied. Right after finishing the meal, Josephine couldn't wait to drag me away, under the pretense of cultivating feelings with her suitor. I didn't want to stay and watch the two of them flaunt their affection either, so I picked up Bruce's cage and followed the little girl out. The night was deep. Josephine took me to a movie theater, bought tickets for the late-night show, and ordered us each a mango pomelo sago dessert. Dominic, let me treat you to a movie. When you're feeling down, something sweet helps. I looked at her in surprise. I remember you didn't like drinking sweet beverages when you were little. Josephine smiled. I heard that sweet drinks stimulate dopamine secretion and improve one's mood. So after drinking this mango pomelo sago, don't keep that bitter face anymore. It's not worth it for someone who doesn't like you back. I looked at her, suddenly realizing she was comforting me. My heart seemed to tremble slightly. All these years chasing after Elizabeth, the first D, apparently grown accustomed to swallowing my own bitterness. This was the first time someone had ever comforted me. So when I received Elizabeth's message for the first time ever, I didn't reply. For Josephine and I stayed out very late that day. Since dogs weren't allowed in the dorm, I planned to temporarily leave Bruce with Josephine while I looked for an apartment to move into within the next few days. The day after the open class, Vincent stopped me in the lecture hall. Dominic, I'm moving in with Elizabeth. There wasn't the slightest ripple in my eyes. That's great. I wish you both happiness. Vincent stared at me intently, his voice slightly strained as he said, Dominic, do you also have feelings for Elizabeth? You see, even Vincent, who I just met, could effortlessly see through my affection. Yet all these years, Elizabeth pretended not to know, keeping me by her side under the guise of friendship at her beck and call. A bitter feeling rose in my heart as I sighed. You really didn't need to tell me all this. No matter what I think, Elizabeth only sees me as a friend. Who she chooses is her own decision. Vincent fell silent for a moment before asking, have you never confessed your feelings to Elizabeth? I looked at him, enunciating each word. Clearly, Elizabeth has only ever seen me as a friend. And now, in the future, Elizabeth and I will only ever be friends. Vincent studied me quietly for a long moment before suddenly asking, Dominic, do you have feelings for that girl Josephine from the other day? I fell silent, but I was genuinely considering the possibility. After a long pause, I smiled and answered solemnly and slowly. Since I loved the wrong person before, I should at least give myself a chance to pursue true happiness. The tension in Vincent's eyes faded, and he patted my shoulder as if a weight had been lifted. I have high hopes for you too. Josephine had just returned to the country and was very familiar with the area, but she insisted on accompanying me to look at apartments. The girl, who appeared delicate and otherworldly, turned out to be a formidable negotiator with landlords, arguing with such eloquence that it left them speechless and forced to concede, as if she were in a debate competition. When signing the contract, the landlord sighed, your girlfriend is really impressive. She's even more practical than my wife. Hearing the word girlfriend, Josephine, who had been radiating confidence moments before, instantly deflated. I'm not yet, she murmured. The blush on her cheeks spread all the way to the tips of her ears. Listening to the landlord's teasing laughter and seeing Josephine's sparkling eyes, my heartbeat inexplicably quickened. After securing the apartment, I treated Josephine to a meal nearby. We ate and wandered around until 6:30, when Josephine bought 2 bottles of beer from a convenience store and handed one to me. Let us drink to celebrate you finding a place. I actually rarely drink. The last time was right after the college entrance exams. Back then, drunk on courage, I asked Elizabeth out, intending to confess my feelings. I waited for her eagerly, only to receive a last-minute cancellation via WeChat. Sorry, I overslept. I made plans for a graduation trip and might miss my flight. Gotta run. Elizabeth would never rearrange her schedule for me, nor would she ever feel apologetic for wronging me. Snapping back to reality, I took Josephine's beer. When I opened it, probably shaken from handling, the foam gushed out, eagerly drenching me completely. I frantically searched my pockets for tissues, but Josephine grabbed my wrist and pressed the steaming beer to her lips, taking a couple of sips from my hand. Then she looked at me with dark, innocent eyes and said, this will do. As she leaned in, her fragrant hair brushed against my wrist, sending a faint, tingling sensation through me. All I could hear was the howling wind around us. I could clearly feel her tense body, her scorching breath, and the pleasant scent on her. The little girl had grown up, and I didn't know when she'd become so bold and proactive. No longer the little tagalong who used to follow me and Elizabeth everywhere. But before I could react, her face grew redder and redder until she suddenly pulled back, as if she couldn't take it anymore, turning her burning hot profile toward me. I couldn't help but laugh. Who gets all shy while flirting with someone? After some thought, I asked her, you seemed really good at haggling just now. Did you learn that skill abroad? Josephine paused for a moment, then nodded nonchalantly. Back then, my parents' marriage fell apart, and neither would send me living expenses. I had to earn money to support myself. Every day, I had to count every penny I made just to get by. Over time, I learned how. I looked at her, suddenly feeling a pang of heartache. Josephine laughed. It was only tough for that 1 year later. I teamed up with some like-minded friends to start a business developing small games. We won an award, earned our first pot of gold, and even received an offer from a gaming company. Now, after a few years, the company has gone public, and I've become a little rich woman. I laughed too last night. I suddenly wanted to know more about Josephine S. life over the years. So I searched her name on her American School S forum and found many confession posts for boys. Some even wrote in detail about how she worked part-time to support herself and how she won a locally influential tech innovation award for game development. She is truly outstanding. After watching her for a while, I casually asked little one, "Why do you like me?" Josephine was taken aback, and after a long pause, she finally spoke. Liking someone is a feeling. There aren't that many reasons for it. Maybe it's because I helped chase away those who bullied you when we were kids. Or perhaps many times when you picked up Elizabeth, you'd also bring me candy to cheer me up. Listening to the young girl confess her crush, my face inexplicably grew warm. I'd been humbling myself beside Elizabeth for so long that I never dared imagine I could be someone else's white moonlight too. Josephine met my gaze, openly, her eyes gentle. A few days ago, I went to your school to wait for Elizabeth and recognized you at first glance in the bookstore by the school gate. You're the Dominic who helped chase away the bad guys for me when we were kids. But you didn't notice me at all. By the time I was about to call out to you, you'd already left. Lying in bed at night, tossing and turning, unable to sleep, Josephine's words kept replaying in my mind. Only today did I realize how pathetically small I've been all these years of secretly loving Elizabeth. Her repeated indifference and neglect made me constantly doubt and deny myself. I never imagined that someone had been silently watching over me for so many years. To be needed, to be liked, to be cherished, Josephine laid everything I had ever dreamed of right before me openly and honestly. How could I bear to push away such precious feelings? Thinking this way, I opened my phone and composed a WeChat Moments post. Learn to bid farewell to the past and welcome the one who suits you best. Hello there, girlfriend. The accompanying photo showed 2 beer cans clinking together. In the picture, one hand is broad and slender, while the other is fair and delicate with a small mole on the index finger. This photo was taken at Josephine's request. She said she wanted to keep it as a memento. Just seconds after I posted it, Josephine liked and replied, "Hello there, boyfriend." I couldn't help but laugh. Just as I was about to message her privately, another reply came through. "Are you with Josephine now?" The familiar nickname made me momentarily dazed. The next second, the phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. It was Elizabeth. The moment I hung up the phone, I didn't hesitate at all. Those days of waiting by the phone for Elizabeth's reply felt like a distant dream. But what I never expected was that Elizabeth, who used to be so sparing with her words and messages to me, after I rejected her, she actually swallowed her pride and kept calling and messaging me, saying she wanted to have a proper talk. I found it ridiculous. What else was there left for us to discuss? Besides, I was already with Josephine. A decent boyfriend should maintain appropriate distance from girls other than his girlfriend. So I blocked her directly. A month later, Vincent, who had moved out of the dorm, suddenly called me. Elizabeth broke up with me. She said she never actually liked me, that there is someone else she likes. I know the person she is talking about is you. But why she was the one who barged into my life, first made me fall in love with her, and then treated me like this. Someone like her just enjoys being chased, enjoys the superiority of having everyone revolve around her. What right does she have to talk about love? Vincent, the aloof iceberg flower of a law school, I could hear his suppressed sobs over the phone. He was actually crying over a girl. Finally, he said in a tearful voice, "Dominic, I don't blame you." My mind was in turmoil for a moment. I didn't know whether to sympathize with Vincent or lament Elizabeth's heartlessness. The phone rang, just then displaying an unfamiliar number. I knew exactly who it was suppressing my disgust. I answered anyway. The voice came through almost immediately. "Dominic, you finally picked up." I froze for a moment. That was exactly what I used to say to her. But she would always say coldly, "Dominic, get to the point. If you have something to say, don't call me for no reason." Now the tables have turned, yet I don't feel much satisfaction. Because the truth is I no longer have any feelings for her. Turns out letting go of a decade-long obsession isn't actually that difficult after all. What I like now is Josephine's beautiful, gentle face flashed through my mind, and I unconsciously curved my lips into a smile. Elizabeth's slightly urgent voice came through the phone. "Dominic, actually I calmly interrupted her. "Elizabeth, I've been following behind you for 10 years, 10 whole years. If only you had turned around to look at me just once. But you never did. Now I've truly let go. If you still care even a little about the bond we shared growing up, please don't disturb my life anymore." Elizabeth remained silent for a long time. With a choked, tearful voice, she asked me in a suppressed tone, "Dominic, you're with Josephine to provoke me, to make me change my mind, aren't you? Then let me tell you now, you've succeeded. I can't live without you. I like you, Dominic. Could you be my boyfriend?" I truly never expected Elizabeth to see me as this kind of person. Confessing to someone who already has a girlfriend, and with such righteous indignation, did she take me for some spineless simp with no boundaries? Perhaps it was because I pursued Elizabeth so shamelessly in the past that she gained this kind of confidence. I admit I was blind before. I can wipe my eyes clean and start over. 6 after moving to the new place, I went to Josephine S. to pick up Bruce. Unexpectedly, it started raining on the way. I jogged along and accidentally twisted my foot, scraping my ankle against a stone that left a gash from which beads of blood immediately welled up. When I arrived at her house, limping Josephine, who was in the living room, spotted the wound on my foot at once. Her brows slightly furrowed as she hurried toward the bedroom. She soon returned with ointment and band-aids, bending down to tend to my wound. Cold fingers touched my foot, accompanied by the faint scent of a girlish perfume. Once she finished, I quickly pulled my foot back. It was almost like fleeing in panic. I stayed in the bathroom, splashing water on my face, trying desperately to calm myself down. Josephine had come in at some point without me noticing, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. Her voice was soft as she murmured, "Dominic, how much longer are you going to wash? Your girlfriend helping apply some medicine shouldn't he make you this shy?" She let out a light chuckle. My face flushed completely red. The light fell perfectly on Josephine's porcelain cheeks, casting a faint orange-yellow glow in her eyes. Her eyes were beautiful, shimmering, with liquid light brimming with warmth, carrying deep affection and longing. "Dominic," she murmured softly, wrapping her arms around my neck. "I want to kiss you." I opened my mouth, but before I could make a sound, she suddenly tilted her head up and brushed her lips against mine, light as a dragonfly's touch, electric as a spark. Then her pupils slightly contracted, her eyes sparkling. "So this is what kissing feels like." Suddenly my mouth felt dry. "You've never kissed anyone before?" "No." She shook her head, then narrowed her eyes the next second. "Don't tell me you have." I shook my head. "Honestly, no, I haven't either." Josephine laughed, pinched my chin with her fingers, tilted my head back, and kissed me again. "Then let us try once more." I don't know how long passed before she pulled back slightly, breathing heavily, her gaze burning against my face so intensely it felt like it might melt me. "Dominic, I'm so happy." I reached out to touch her hair, and I was about to speak when a sound came from the doorway. It seemed like the beep of an access card unlocking the door. Instinctively, I looked over. Elizabeth stood at the entrance, her expression dark as she glared at us. She strode over quickly, her face ashen, eyes filled with shock and fury, as if I had done something unforgivable to her. All I felt was absurd amusement. "What are you doing, Elizabeth? We're just friends, childhood buddies, classmates. I'm kissing my girlfriend. What right do you have to pull a face?" Josephine got up from the couch beside them and said languidly, "Elizabeth, please return the access card my mom gave you, then leave my house." Elizabeth looked furious as she glared at Josephine for a moment, then actually raised her hand as if to strike her. I immediately grabbed her wrist, stepping sideways to shield Josephine, and snapped sharply enough. Elizabeth froze for a second, her eyes growing even redder after staring at me. For a long moment, she finally spoke hoarsely. "Dominic, you never used to scold me before now, for Josephine's sake. Have you completely forgotten all our past feelings? We've been together for 10 years, and you're going to abandon me for Josephine, who just returned from abroad." I looked at her, my voice calm. "You've crossed the line, Elizabeth. We're just friends. It's not abandonment. Josephine is my girlfriend now. Taking care of my girlfriend is what I should be doing now." Elizabeth froze in place. I shook off her hand as if discarding trash. Caught off guard, Elizabeth stumbled and fell directly onto the ground, looking at me in disbelief. "Dominic, Vincent and I broke up. What does that have to do with me?" Elizabeth's eyes were filled with sorrow. "Dominic, I truly regret it now. I used to take your devotion for granted and overlooked you. I'm sorry, okay? After being with Vincent, I realized what I felt for him was just novelty. I don't actually like him. What I truly love is Dominic, who is always quietly by my side. Dominic, who supports and encourages me no matter what I do. Dominic, who took me home and made New Year's Eve dinner for me when I was alone. Dominic, who unconditionally tolerates all my willfulness." I cut her off directly. "That Dominic is a fucking idiot. Foolishly loved someone who wasn't worth loving at all. If given another chance, I bet that Dominic would turn and run the moment he first saw you." Elizabeth froze on the verge of tears, her eyes brimming with boundless pain and inscrutable darkness. In the past, seeing that pitiful look in her eyes would have made my heart ache, even filled me with self-reproach. But now I'm surprisingly calm. I might even say there's a hint of disgust. "Elizabeth, from now on, whoever I'm with has nothing to do with you. If you have any self-respect left, you shouldn't keep pestering a man who already has a girlfriend." Elizabeth froze, her face gradually turning pale. Josephine, growing impatient beside us, didn't directly ask Elizabeth to leave. Instead, she looked at me and spoke in Elizabeth's presence, her tone naturally innocent yet deliberately coquettish. "Dominic, it's thundering outside. I'm scared. Why don't you stay with me instead of leaving?" I tilted my head slightly and caught sight of Elizabeth's body, giving a violent shudder. All right, I pulled her into my embrace and naturally turned to head back inside. After Elizabeth left, after much deliberation, I still decided to go home. Staying overnight at a girl-less place just wasn't tea proper after all. But the rain grew heavier that evening. Just as I stepped out, Josephine's voice called from behind. What I said earlier was true tonight. Don't go back. She walked over step by step and hugged me from behind. Dominic, I really like you. Pressed so close I could hear Josephine's heartbeat overlapping with mine, fervent and intense. The bed curtain was like a cocoon, completely trapping Josephine and me in a world that belonged only to the two of us. Are you nervous? Josephine's voice brushed against my ear like a lake stirred by spring breeze, sending ripples that lingered endlessly. What about you? Josephine pressed my hand against her heart, laughing. See, she's trembling. Her movement sent a buzzing through my head as if thousands of tons of cement had been poured and freezing my brain into complete shutdown. My entire body burned. Her kiss landed between my brows. Dominic, I've liked you since that moment in childhood when you chased away those bullies from me. It landed on the tip of my nose to the heart-fluttering reunion at the bookstore. It landed on my collarbone and my heart. You're handsome, adorable, and exceptional. Anyone who doesn't cherish you is a fool. You're worthy of being loved by anyone. Josephine kissed me with every word she spoke. Dominic, do you like it when I treat you this way? Meeting her eager, burning gaze, I felt something sear through my chest. Slowly and solemnly, I enunciated each word I do. I like you too, Josephine. Finally, her whisper melted into our entwined breaths. Dominic, you must cherish me too. The room temperature rose as my phone on the nightstand kept vibrating incessantly, but none of us paid any attention to it. The next day I had an early class, so I got up early and glanced over. Josephine was still fast asleep beside me. I smiled, tucked her in, and headed to school. As I got dressed and went downstairs, I spotted a familiar figure sitting on the bench below. It was Elizabeth. The sky had just begun to lighten, and under the dim glow of the street lamp, I saw her pale face, her long hair still damp and disheveled, and the scattered cigarette butts at her feet she was smoking. Back when Elizabeth was preparing for her postgraduate entrance exams, the stress was overwhelming, and somehow she picked up smoking. I nagged in her ear countless times about the dangers of smoking, telling her that girls especially should smoke less before she impatiently stubbed out her cigarette. I asked her, you won't smoke anymore after this? I won't smoke anymore, you promise? Elizabeth was both amused and exasperated by my persistence. Unless I feel like I'm about to die and need a cigarette to ease the pain, I won't smoke again in this lifetime. Coming back to my senses, I looked calmly at Elizabeth standing before me. She looks utterly wretched, now agonized, disheveled, fragile and pitiful, as if she might shatter at the slightest touch. A world apart from the untouchable goddess she once was. Elizabeth raises her head and looks at me. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she had been waiting for me here all night. She didn't speak to me, just cradled her face and wept quietly. I suddenly felt a pang of sorrow. I remember the first time I'd seen Elizabeth. In the library, she was flipping through an all-English book, her face expressionless with long, upturned eyelashes half lowered like an angel fallen to earth. After being interrupted by the sound I accidentally made, she slightly raised her eyes, and her cold, calm gaze fell into my heart at that moment. Back then, I didn't care whether there would be a result. I only knew to offer my sincere heart. For a full 10 years, I cast aside my dignity, repeatedly lowered my boundaries, stumbling and following step by step behind Elizabeth, not even begging for an outcome. And she neither refuses nor draws near. Yet, as human beings, what we crave most is to possess a love that is cherished, equal, and mutually respectful. One person's pursuit is not love, one-sided. Giving is not equality. Endless compromise and internal strife are not respect. I used to think Elizabeth was a goddess surrounded by admirers, that she was simply spoiled and didn't understand love, didn't know how to love others. Until she fell in love with Vincent. She would lock up my puppy because he was allergic to dog hair, would overcome her own cleanliness obsession to peel crabs for Vincent, would transform into a gentle and considerate girlfriend, all for Vincent. Love is human nature. It needs neither deliberate teaching nor strenuous learning. No amount of affection can endure neglect. Even the bravest, most passionate love fears comparison. Giving up might just happen in an instant. So I took the initiative to say, Elizabeth, you say you like me. But if you truly like someone, you'd want them to be happy, you'd care about all their feelings. Yet all these years you only come to me when you need something, and when I'm sad you just stand by indifferently telling me to calm down. Even now your pain is nothing more than because the person who always followed behind you no longer obeys you. Elizabeth sobbed that not true, Dominic. How could it be like this? I just didn't have time to see my own feelings clearly. We've known each other too long, since childhood. You were always behind me, appearing whenever I needed you. I just took your favor for granted and failed to see my own feelings clearly. I always thought you'd never leave me, but last night right here, I watched you spend the entire evening with Josephine, unable to stop imagining how intimate you two must have been. That unease, restlessness, and sorrow made me realize I truly like you. I really regret not having had the chance to properly like you. You used to like me so much, could you like me one more time? My heart was utterly calm. I can't help but recall the night when Elizabeth stayed out all night at a bar with her classmates during our freshman year. Worried sick because she wouldn't listen to my advice, I ended up keeping vigil outside that bar the entire night. Bruce was a stray dog Elizabeth and I found on campus back in our middle school days. To me now you're just a childhood friend I've known forever. I will cherish Josephine, respect her, love her, and we will be happy together, and please don't disturb our lives anymore. With it I turned and walked away. When I turned my head, I realized Josephine had come downstairs at some point and was standing not far from us. She must have heard every word. I opened my arms to her watching as she rushed toward me, unable to suppress the smile in my eyes. Did you make it clear to her? I looked at her. Yes, I made it clear. Seeing her raise her eyebrows slightly, I said with certainty, Elizabeth and I won't have any relationship from now on. Josephine smiled. Not bad, that deserves a reward. Then she boldly planted a kiss on my lips. As if remembering something, Josephine grew thoughtful. But that wouldn't do either, after all Elizabeth still calls me aunt. I froze for a moment before realizing, then chuckled wryly. Uncle, that works to the end.